Welcome to Breaking Boundaries podcast. I'm Matt Colomer here with my co-host Raphael Avjolu. On this podcast, we interview people that are pushing themselves and testing their limits within art, business, and entrepreneurship.
What drives you, what pushes you to your breaking point, and what got you to where you are right now? This is Breaking Boundaries podcast.
Guys, we are back with another episode of the Breaking Boundaries podcast. I'm here with my co-host Raphael.
Yo.
And yeah, we're excited. We have a guest today who we're pumped about. His name is Alex Iby. He's a photographer. And yeah, we're going to have him introduce himself. So what's up, Alex?
What's going on, guys? How you guys doing today?
Good, man. How are you?
Pretty good, yeah. So my name is Alex Iby, and I'm a 25-year-old photographer from Boston, Massachusetts. And I've been doing photography for about 3.5 years so far. Originally started when I was surfing through Instagram, actually. And I got really hyped when I saw all these crazy photos from all these photographers. And I was like, you know what? I can do this.
Yeah.
Whatever they were doing online.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Yeah.
And so I started with my iPhone 4. And it was just kind of framing pictures.
How long ago is this?
This is 3.5 years ago. So yeah, the iPhone 4 was still out of date even then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I stuck with that thing for a while actually.
I got an iPhone 6 now, so whatever.
It did the job. Yeah.
Yeah.
Learned how to frame things, and then eventually got that T6i, the Rebel T6i Canon, and then switched to the 5D.
Yeah.
So it's been
Progression.
Moving up.
and very awesome, very exciting.
Yeah.
And I love photography. Like, photography is what I want to do the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Why is photography? Photography specifically? Is it something that you were drawn to? Maybe, you said that you were, interested from Instagram and all that, but why do you think photography? What about it is what that inspires you or gets you most excited?
For sure, yeah. So I actually, I've been drawing here and there my whole life, painting, whatever, but these things are a much slower process.
You take like art classes in high school?
A little bit, but I kind of messed around a bit.
Yeah.
And,
Show.
I wasn't doing exactly what they wanted. And that's because
Sure.
art, you're not supposed to be told what to do. You're supposed to do what you want.
Yeah,
For sure.
sure.
Right? So I never vibed with the lessons. Anywho, I was drawing, painting, whatever, but they were taking so long. I loved to do it, but over time, as I got older and older and more responsibilities came, I didn't want to sit down and draw and paint for hours at a time.
Yeah.
It's just a long time. You
For
run
sure.
out of time when you grow up.
For sure.
Yeah.
So when I picked up the camera and I took my first picture, I was like, wow, instant art. I was like, this couldn't be any more exciting, because anything I imagine or see, I can literally turn it into whatever I want in that instant. And that's what kind of drew me into it, was the ability to, with light, to create any sort of picture that you can imagine.
Photography is a study of light.
It's the instant manifestation of your thoughts.
Right.
Whatever you imagine it to be like. And you can show them that through the images that you produce.
Right. Exactly.
It's
And you
awesome.
can just express these different ideas that you want to get out, and you can kind of do them in your own way, which I think that's why it's appealing to a lot of people. At least for me, that's what it's like. You can be inspired by all these different things, but then you can express it through whatever way that you want. And I think that's exciting to me.
I want to talk about a little bit, and because I don't think I saw it in the same way necessarily. I think it just like started out as something I didn't even know what was going on, and I was kind of like, oh yeah, this is cool, or I enjoy doing this or whatever. And then it turned into more of this is like with the iPhone, and then like before I knew it, it kind of had become like a thing that I was like, oh, maybe if I used a camera, it would be better pictures, whatever. But I definitely want to talk about that innocence in the beginning of going like, oh yeah, like these are cool photos. I could do that without really knowing how much goes into it. And like, can you discuss a little bit about like where your head was at, or how much research maybe went into the beginning, or if no research went into the beginning and you were like, yeah, I can do that?
Yeah, for sure. What it started with was with the iPhone 4, I wasn't going to judge myself based on what I was doing. I was just going to have fun and take whatever picture I saw interesting. And through that, giving myself no boundaries to like, or constraints to be under, it felt more free, more fun. I let myself kind of develop naturally through that, let my art just find itself, not be told what kind of settings you need or whatever else, especially when I got my Rebel, because that's when I got more into learning about how to shoot on manual and whatever else. As soon as I got the camera, I didn't want to shoot in auto because I wasn't about it. I wanted to learn how to manipulate the photos in my own way. And I dove a little bit into the photography triangle, whatever it is called, with the ISO, the shutter speed, and the aperture. And there's a scientific balance between each. I never learned the balance of whatever math you're supposed to do to figure out the exposure, the correct exposure.
Sure.
And I just kind of guessed and checked. And that's kind of been the way I've been my whole life, is guessing and checking. Not so much told what to do, but more experiencing it for myself first before I can really understand. Because I just don't understand when someone else is teaching me something.
You're a very hands-on person?
Hands-on.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting and I think more fun to be hands-on.
I think that's an important topic to talk about, with not even just in photography, but a lot of different fields or a lot of different things in life. Is like, there are ways where you can do the technical, by the book, career, or it could be even like, a craft. Like,
well, there's some ways you have to do it by the book, like surgery and stuff.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But like, for sure. But like with photography or anything like that, it's like, you don't like it could. I mean, it would be beneficial for sure to like go to school for photography and learn it from that background, and that's like a good way to do it too. But especially this kind of thing, I don't think it's always the way. Yeah. Especially if you are like kind of like more hands on. You know,
I'm actually heavily against going to school for art, because I believe that any art, unless you're going for the connections that you're going to get from their professors.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Other than that, I think that an artist can learn either through its own network or through its own experience. I think that going to photography school, for instance, you're going to spend X amount of money and you can learn the same thing that you can learn on YouTube by doing. Maybe it's a more formal way of doing it.
Right.
More, ritual. They have a certain agenda that they want to do to teach you what they need to teach you, and they figure that out. But when you figure that out on your own, you can spend no money on school and invest it in your craft and
makes sense.
Build it on that. And I'm all for the rules. I think they're important to learn, because eventually you do have to figure out what's going on with what. But after that,
you learn the rules so you can break them.
Let them go.
Right, and you have to know them first in some way.
I think as someone that went to school for graphic design and took every photo class, so I got a specialization in photography, I can say that, well, I always like to say like, okay, like what if school was free, then would it be more like acceptable to go to school for art? But also, I would say that even thinking about possible grad schools, I think what is really beneficial for me is the connections with other artists that you're working with. So you're all kind of living and working together and like breathing together, like in this small community where you're all kind of grinding and hustling and like learning and taking classes together. So then you're all also viewing constantly and learning the history of different artworks, viewing different artworks. Then you're also all critiquing each other's artwork on a regular basis. So you're all putting everything up on the wall for everyone to see, and then your professor's like, this good, this bad, this good, this bad. And you have to go, okay, I'm going to listen to that person because they look like they're killing it and they look like they have a promising future. That girl doesn't know shit about photo, so I don't care what she says about my shit. But you kind of like, I just remember being like, at first, like, if you tell me to do it in pencil, I'm going to do it in pen. Like, that's just how it is. But, like, from there, like, having access to a studio, having access to the lights, and having access, 24-hour access to the art center, and being like, okay, I'm going to constantly, not everyone was like that. Not everyone was sleeping on the benches and constantly there all day and all night. But I definitely feel like and then for other people, they can't really sit down and go, I'm going to learn this thing. They have to have someone else tell them, you're going to learn this thing or you're going to fail my class. And then they'll go, okay. And then once they learn it, then they know fuck, I love it. You know, like a lot of people hate math because they're bad at it. If you were good at it, you'd like it. You know what I'm saying? So I think, you know, like, but they get kind of pushed, like given a little bit of held hand. And, you know, I just think that some people are like, oh, I don't think I'm that way anymore. I think if I want something, I can go and grab it. But I feel like at the time when I first started learning photography, it was only because I took a photo one class and they were like, you have to have a DSLR to have this class. And I was like, all right, I'll get a DSLR. And then I had it. So I was like, I'll use it. And then, you know, and I didn't feel like I really learned a whole lot. I learned how to develop film. I learned how to shoot film really well in art school. But other than that, you know, like I don't use almost anything I learned in art school in my daily, like, go alongs or whatever like that. So I don't recommend, if people are like if you were telling me today, like, I'm thinking about going, I'd be like, you kind of already have the thing that you know you want to do, and you're already kind of doing it. So just keep doing it. You know, like, there's no real reason to get like an education at this point. But if someone's like, I don't know, I don't really know what I really want, I'm like, all right, go figure it out. Fuck it. Like,
yeah, I think
you know?
they're definitely, it's a really good argument. There's like, there's valid points in both sides. Yeah. Because even for me too, like, I did communication in college, and then I got into doing video through college. I had pretty much no interest in video before I went. Yeah. So that's, for me, it worked. But, you know, I think if you do want to go down the path, if you're like, you don't want to go to the route of school, say you are into like a creative field, then you really have to know and be disciplined with what you're doing and really have a focus of where you want to go with it. Yeah. And I think most kids don't actually, especially when they're 18, because like
18 is too young.
It's so young.
Really.
Teach yourself without being told to learn something. Like, imagine teaching yourself math. And there are plenty of like architects that did it, you know, back in the day. But like, awful, man. It's just like crazy. It's like there's like plenty of like philosophers and scientists that like taught themselves like astronomy and like all this different stuff. But it's like, oh, they just like read textbooks, like, you know, yeah, like sounds like a great time. But I think that and that's what it takes. I feel like that, like, photo was the only class I didn't take in high school, ironically. So it's like I took jewelry making, ceramics, I took drawing, AP Studio Art, like all these different classes, but I avoided photo. Had I taken photo then, I probably would have fallen in love, and we had a dark room and shit like that. Probably would have fallen in love, and I probably would have been like, fuck college, I got this. You know, and halfway through college, when I realized that photography is really what I wanted to do, I called my parents up and I was like, yo, like, I don't know if I should be here. Like, I feel like I can spend the next 2 years really, like, I had friends who lived in the town that I went to school in that were photographers but didn't go to school, and they just had so much more free time than I had. So I was just like, to get better and to like travel and to do these different things. But I was always like, well, I can't travel this week because I have finals and I have this going on. And I'm in general education classes that I fucking hate. And so I'm just like, what am I doing? But I was like, fine. If you want the plaque up on the wall, Michigan State, then fine. Like, I'll get it, and then I can do whatever the fuck I want, you know?
That's the thing with college. I think for the most people, it's the parents.
It's the parents
that are proud of their kid going
for sure.
Because they grew up in a different time where that was the thing to do, and that was a happy thing when they graduated. That was a huge success. Yeah. Now I think it's turning more into a business, and it's, you know. Yeah,
I agree.
It's poorly positioned now, and I think it's gonna cause a lot of ruckus. You know, in the next 10, 15, 20 years.
For sure.
I think it's gonna fall apart.
And I don't know. It's interesting too, because there are other parts of it that I think people that did go to college. In some ways, I think that's what the main view of it is, like, oh, these classes that they're teaching me, right? Oh, these classes don't make sense. But we've talked about this before. It's not. That's really, to me, that's not what where the value was. Yeah, at least for me, it was like the social thing.
It's the people.
If you don't, like, a lot of people, they don't have that social experience. They missed out on a lot of really challenges and like figuring out how to talk with people and also how to like coexist with people in like small spaces, say dorm rooms or classrooms or whatever. And then they don't have that experience at all. So they're really unprepared socially in that aspect. So that is another like argument, I guess, for school. But they're, you know, like I said, there are.
Well, if you're still trying to figure out who you are, it's just not a bad option to go.
It's not.
You know?
It's not.
But if you kind of know who you are and you know what you want, by all means, go and get it.
Yeah.
You know, and in a lot of ways, like all my professors said, not one, and they're all traveling, they're all working artists that, you know, teach classes and stuff like that. And then they'll be gone in Japan the next week or something like that because they're giving like an artist lecture or something like that. But like, and then they have their shows at the end of the year, but they're like, not one person has ever asked, what's your transcript? Where are your grades? You know, they care about your portfolio, you know, and if your portfolio is strong or your reel is strong for video, then, you know, no one's going to be like, oh, you went to this school. I think that when it comes to grad schools, when you talk about RISD and Pratt or like the new school in New York or NYU, I think it looks really good when you're like, I'm a grad student in film school at NYU. And that your professors can technically be like, you don't got to worry about a job. I got you a job. You know, they can market that, and you're kind of almost paying your way in because you go to these prestigious, like internationally renowned grad schools for film or for photo. So like you have your shows up in these cities, and it becomes like this mecca where you can just kind of like push your way into the industry instead of having to kind of like run around and be like, maybe this will work, maybe that'll work, maybe this will work. But it's like, at what point? Because I've thought about that too, and kind of like, what route do you want to go?
It's interesting. I mean, there could be like massive benefits to that, and a lot of those probably would be the connections that you would make with those things. But again, a ton of money, and there's just like there are alternative ways.
Right.
Like I know there are people that have done things like instead of going to get their masters for not even like in the creative space, but like in business, like an MBA, getting an MBA. Like I know Tim Ferriss, the author, he has a podcast too. He talks about he did like I think he called it an alternative MBA or something like that, and he basically took the money. And like I think he was like he already had like quite a bit of money like when he was finished with school and stuff through like business and like whatever. But he took the money that he would spend on grad school. I think he took out a loan for the amount of money that it would be to get an MBA, and then put that towards him starting like a business.
Right.
So basically, it was like him investing basically in an experience in like business, instead of investing it in the actual education.
Right.
So like that I think is kind of like an interesting way to approach it, where you're like, I'm going to spend this money anyway because I need to spend some money to get to a certain place that I need to get to, but it doesn't have to be a formal education technically.
Which is like if like you or I were to like rent a studio here in Somerville or something and each pay like $700 a month, like eventually like with the studio, the lights, the cameras, the lenses, the tripods, all the stuff that you might be using in school, you know, but have that to your access or something like that. So it's like you're gonna be, like you said, you're gonna be spending money anyways. You know, it just depends on where you want to put that money and how you want to use that money. Do you want to use that money to get to California? Do you want to use that money to get, you know, and be at a school and have a degree? And I couldn't agree more when it comes to like, I think that there are some people, even our age especially, but like who are like, I'm the first in my family to go to school, you know?
Yeah.
But like there's also like in my house, even though my parents of course will say over and over again that, oh, you didn't need to go to school. Oh, we would have let you do. No, it was not an option. It just wasn't an option. At that point, it just wasn't an option. And it still wouldn't have been an option to be like, if I like was one credit away from graduating, I would still have to have that thing lingering over me until I finally did that last credit. And then they'd be like, you know, it's that thing of just being like, he did it, you know?
I think that going back to what you're supposed to be spending your money on and how you can form your path with the social experience and getting further in whatever career that you're choosing. I think that if you have the intention of doing that already beforehand, you can do that on your own based off how you put yourself in situations socially, how you form groups socially.
For sure.
Wherever you're from. because there's always going to be people that do what you do. So it's about connecting with those people wherever they are. But the funny thing is you went to school for graphic design, right? But then you switched to photography. So you originally didn't know that you were going to be doing photography, which is...
And I didn't even really want to be like a great graphic designer. I was like, yeah, I'll work for a brew company making like flyers and stuff like that. I wasn't like, oh yeah, I'll be on the path. I had no confidence in my craft. It was the professors, honestly, that said like, because I was like, yeah, I wanted to create good work. So they'd give me projects and I'd be like, all right, I'm going to like go to this dorm and I'm going to like put up this plaque and it's going to be this huge thing. And they're like, you know, your brain thinks differently, right? And I'm like, it does. And they're like, yeah, you know, you could like be someone one day, right? And I'm like, I could. And they kind of gave me like the confidence to be like, because if they're saying that and they've already done it in like the art industry, then I'm kind of like, okay, I'll like kind of take this seriously now. And then that's around the same time where I picked up a camera and it was like,
yeah.
I think that for a lot of people, there's not enough awareness of their own abilities to do whatever they imagine to do.
That's right.
There's a certain path that they believe since they're young that it's formed that they should follow.
Yep.
But I think that if more people had that understanding, then maybe you would have gone a different route. Maybe I would have gone a different route.
Right.
Everyone. Because it's a funny thing. You get older and time goes on and you get more, hopefully, more aware of things.
Yeah. Hopefully.
and then you realize these things and, I would have gone back and done this stuff. But think about what you can do with moving forward.
Yeah.
Already having this awareness, already moving forward. Okay, I already know what's good for me, what's not good for me. What can I do to excel and get past the next thing that I don't think I can do? Or it's all about how much belief you have.
It's so true, man.
Or thinking like, or this like weird, whatever it is, like in the air, but like this weird thing in your mind that says I'm 25, but it's too late. You know, like
I'm old now.
Yeah, like I would have done. Man, if I would have.
It's just. It's not real.
It's like what? You're so young. Like you're so young. Like, and so like anything is possible. I was gonna say like, do you agree with the system? Like, because I feel like you're kind of touching upon like, Alex is really good at drawing. Like he's 12, like we see he's nonstop drawing all the time. Let's put him in drawing 1, 2, 3, and 4 and like really see where he can go with drawing and painting and stuff like that. Or like maybe we should hand him a paintbrush and then maybe we'll see what he does with the paintbrush, you know, instead of being like, oh, let's put him in like math 1, 2, 3, and 4, or like let's put him in this, like these specific, like, you know, I mean, if I have kids one day, I definitely want to see what, you know, oh, they're picking up the soccer ball. Okay, let's put them in soccer. Like, he wants that? Cool. Like, right on. Like, touch upon talents. Don't, like, shun upon anything, like, that they could possibly be, like, interested in. But, like, I also think that pushing these talents instead of being, like, history, math, English, science, being, like, well, he seems like the creative type, so shouldn't he be doing that all day? You know, at least maybe on a high school level, maybe not like from elementary to middle school, but like once you get into high school, shouldn't he be doing that all day so he can like know what the fuck, like...
Well, it goes back to make it full circle again. This same concept that you're talking about, when you're young and you're being kind of directed in a certain path, given your ability to make whatever choices that you want will allow you to just fill whatever kind of person you're supposed to become originally. So the earlier you're given that opportunity to have choice, you're able to
agency,
create and become whoever you are supposed to be. That could be anyone. It's always changing. But that's the beauty of it. When there's a ritual or a schedule or like, oh, you got to do this and this to be successful, it's like...
It's stifling.
You feel all claustrophobic with the information because it's just kind of surrounding you. It's just like, dude, that's not how I'm going to live my life. And some people, most people succumb to that.
Yeah.
That pressure, that mindset of this is the path that I have to do. And that sucks.
Yeah.
That
because
does
you're not happy.
suck,
right,
You're not being who you're trying to or need to be or supposed to be.
It's just a shame, man. And you hate to see it. And I feel like it can be easy to spot. It's like, that person is just not they're not really into what they're doing. And you're just like, damn. Like, and again, like you said, it's not too late.
Right.
And getting back to like what you talked about, like, and I actually, like, there are a few, not all of them for sure, but there are a few that I can remember, like professors back in college that they did make me think like that. They gave me confidence.
Yeah.
And I think they become really good. Some of them become very good at spotting potential.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, this person is like, they have some potential right here.
Yeah.
And then they try to slowly give you that confidence. And like one professor I'm thinking in particular, one of my favorite professors, she made me just like think differently.
Yeah.
And like, wow, like it doesn't have to be like how these people are saying. It was like a media class media criticism.
Yeah.
Where we like criticized the media, like, and then kind of saw through what they're really doing. And I was like, damn, this is like crazy.
Yeah.
And she was kind of like more of a liberal kind of person. So like she thought about it like, wow, this is like, they're pushing all these agendas and all this stuff. And it's like, you can really like create your own if you really want to, but you have to really decide to, and then, kind of pursue it.
Well, I don't know how it was for either of you guys, but I know that for myself, like maybe not even in college, but maybe it was a series of things. Maybe I was just more aware in college, so maybe I was able to recognize affirmation or recognize encouragement from professors, but I don't feel like I got very encouraged or told like, you have potential before college.
Yeah.
In fact, like I remember growing up and I was like struggling with ADD, and I was put into like a resource class when I was like in 6th grade with a bunch of kids that very clearly had way lower IQs than I did. And I was like, and my my teachers would come up to me and go like, you can take as long as you want on this test. You don't have to rush it, in front of everybody. And I'm like, dude, like no one else is getting special treatment here. And it did make me feel like, and I think I carried that forward until I got to college, where it just made me feel like, I was in AP classes and stuff like that in high school, but like, and I didn't think I was like ridiculously dumb, but I didn't think I had the potential to like do anything I could set my mind to. I was like, I can be a few things, and I can be a few things, and I can be maybe a little bit better than mediocre at those things. But I didn't think like I could do whatever I set my mind to. I was like, yeah, I can be.
Isn't that funny how that teacher, when she was telling you that you can take as long as you want, she thought she was doing you a service when in fact she was doing you a disservice.
Right.
She's like, wow, you're making me feel like I don't have the same abilities as the other kids.
Exactly.
You're not encouraging me. You're bringing me down.
Right. Exactly.
But in her mind, she's like, oh, like it's okay. I'm like, let me comfort him.
Right.
Comfort's not correct always.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
It's not about that.
Right.
And you guys were talking about age a little bit too.
Yeah.
I just want to touch on a point that if anyone's watching this or listening to this right now, if someone's 50, 60, 70 years old,
I was going to say,
I strongly encourage them to do whatever they imagine themselves to do.
Yeah.
Anyone can do it.
Yeah.
No matter the age.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I mean, I think there are certain advantages to starting when you're younger.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that, it's, something that you has to be, done at a young age. Like it can be any age.
Right.
I encourage people to try to explore that now and not 10 years from now.
Yeah.
But, that's kind of the thing. Oh, guys, we're going to take a quick pause on the podcast. We'll be right back. All right, guys, we are back from our little break. And what we were talking about before this, I believe Alex mentioned, talking about people that are certain ages, they feel like it's too late for them to do or pursue a certain thing. And I think that's, usually not the case, So I don't know if you guys want to like continue talking about that, but it's a big topic.
I will say that what helps me the most, I started listening to podcasts like last year, May-ish or so like that. And I think I realized over time that listening to these like old geezers rant back and forth that like had made businesses for themselves and careers for themselves and were sitting on like a plateau of different investments and different things like that over time, is that you ever feel like when you discover someone that everyone just started to discover them, or like you think this like rapper or musician's like doing pretty good and everyone's like, oh yeah, you realize that like everyone just is also discovering them. when I discover a comedian, I feel like it's because they're on the come up, you know?
Right.
And so if they're on the come up and they're 37 and then they're talking in this podcast about how they started when they were 21, you know, doing these rooms in New York and whatever like that, then it's like, and I'm only hearing about them now, then it's like that was 16 years of nonstop grind, hustle. And then when you start to follow kind of their story and backtrack where they came from, and like they'll put up like a throwback or whatever Thursdays on their Instagram or something like that to when they like did this small like flick with like another actor that is now famous, you know, like, and they both did this show together, or like Freaks and Geeks with like James Franco and Seth, all those people like together, but now like look at where they are now. It's kind of like I think podcast really helps me to understand that things take a lot of time.
Yes.
And
Patience, man.
Patience. And it also helps me to realize that some people are 50 and started doing comedy when they were 40, you know, and we're just like, everyone said they should at some point, and so they're like, all right, I'll take the path on. Or, you know, some people started doing video flying drones when they were 50, and now they're 60, and they're like just really good drone flyers.
60 is still pretty young.
60 is still pretty young.
I think that's the thing that a lot of people get mixed up in, especially with the technology being the way it is. We're so distracted, like we were discussing a little bit earlier, with everything, and so stimulated that it makes us more impatient. So
sure.
I think the perspective on our life becomes skewed because we think everything is so instant that our life is also going to be instant. Right. When in turn, it's probably going to be another 60 years until I'm dead.
Yeah.
You know, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, but who knows?
Yeah.
And that's a long time.
Yeah.
To live another 3 lives.
Yeah.
It is.
Whatever I've done, or you've already done.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
The patience, I think, is the thing that, at least for myself, I struggle with the most sometimes. And I think a lot of people that are our age do. Because, like you said, because of the instant gratification, because they think that it all happens at once. Mm-hmm. But I realize that it doesn't at all. And it takes time, and it's a progression. But if you stay patient with it and you think about in the long term instead of the short term, then you're gonna have a lot more success in a lot of areas. Yeah. And you're gonna be happier and have more gratitude for the process, because it is about the process. Like you know, people, and it's amazing. Like it can be insane when you meet someone that's younger than you, that is maybe further along or better than you, maybe more skilled.
Yeah.
But then there's probably some part of what they do that they have no experience about.
Right.
And maybe they're more skilled technically, but yet they haven't had the experience that you have.
Right.
So they are lacking that. Yeah. And it's just like, there's always a different way to view it, where, you can, think about what is different with this person's path, what is different with my path. And that's the thing. Not everyone's is the same. Yeah. Like some people, it takes them 5 years to get to a level that another person took 10 years to get to. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that either one is wrong. It's just kind of the path that they ended up taking. So it is interesting to see and talk about like that kind of thing.
Well, I think like and you said you're a fan of J. Cole, like the whole like 8-week rappers, like. And sometimes my mind gets a little twisted, and I'm like, if you're 18 and you're absolutely killing it, ain't no way you're going to last. Like, I'm just like, yeah, we'll see where you are in 2 years. Like, my mind gets a little, like, maybe not twisted, but kind of like, I do see, like, people who hit me up, yo, I got this deal with, like, Snoop Dogg's son, and blah, 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 I'm going to be shooting him next week, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, cool. Then a month later, yo, so what happened with that? Oh, it fell through, bro. I'm like, yeah, okay, for sure. So, like, to not get it twisted and be like, just because everyone's either this on social media or that doesn't mean that's the way it is, number one. Number two, just because someone's killing it and they're 18 and you're like, I want to be where they are, it seems like they're doing exactly what I want to be doing, doesn't mean that they could be giving up on photography when they're 22 because they're either washed up or travel got to be too much or who knows what could be, or they just don't have the experience or the plateau, like I'd rather be an artist that builds than is shot to the top on like a weak ladder, like, and I have nothing to stand on, or be in a room with a bunch of like 37-year-old intellectual photographers and be like 18 and be like, yeah, I like shot that rapper last week and I'm famous, so it's like I'm that photographer, like, so it's like, I don't know, sometimes I have to like convince myself. But I think it's like it's not bad to get frustrated or disappointed or just be impatient in general. Like, I think everyone should try and work really hard on their patience, and there's ways to work on being more patient. Film, definitely patient, makes me very patient. You have to be, so that's good, and that's why I like film. It like grounds me. But I would say it's when you let it stop you from actually picking up the thing or starting the website or starting the business or starting the clothing brand. You know, that's when it becomes a problem, because it's one thing to be like, this is going to take a long time and I really wish it didn't, but we're going to do it anyways. You know, it's another thing to be like, this is going to take a long time, so why start anyways? You know,
there's a lot of judgment on people's own self that restricts them from doing whatever it is they want to do.
Right.
The judgment is a trap, and it has to be let go, because it's 100% just ego, just blocking it.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you can't just forget about what people think of you and what you think of yourself, more importantly, you realize that yourself is the only thing that can dictate what you're going to do.
Yeah.
So why not just be free of all that and have those no restrictions and just let yourself become flat out. That's it.
Yeah. I go through like very highs and lows with like, I'm going to post on everything, and yo, I'm just going to be on my story all day. I don't care. I'm just going to post funny stuff. I'm going to be goofy. I'm going to post my run. I don't care if my friends are like, oh, you're running now? I'm just going to post it. And then like the next day I'll be like, I'm not posting today. And then the next day I'm like, I might kill it today. I'm like, I'm just going to do whatever I want to do whenever I want to do it, because I feel like I want to say whatever I want to say whenever I want to say it, because I don't want to be afraid of what anyone else is like telling me to say or not to say, because I don't want to be like, because everyone had to say what they had to say at some point, and now they're out there doing it, you know? They're like, they did what they wanted to do regardless of whether everyone was like, that's stupid, what you're saying now is stupid, what you're doing is stupid, because everyone's always going to be like, you're not going to make it, dude. Like, and then you make it, and then everyone's like, I knew he was going to make it. Like, you know.
Yeah, the creative journey is all about those waves.
Yeah.
As you're referring to. It's the ups and downs. It's that I'm going to do this all today.
Yeah.
Or tomorrow you're like, I'm not trying to do that. Yeah. Or a week or a month or a year. And then you're like, oh, I'm in it. And you do that for 5 years, and that's the whole thing. I think with everything that we see and all the information we gather, it's kind of like a linear process that we envision. It's like, oh, up, 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 straight, even, solid. But it's
not linear
at all. It's like pom, pom,
yeah.
You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You just got to live right now.
Yeah.
Just do whatever you can do right now.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I think the trap is like, it's the whole journey of the ups and downs and the setbacks, and like we talked about yesterday, the 2 steps forward and then 2 steps back to take 1 step forward to then be 1 step back of what
it's a chess game.
That's what it is. It should be.
It should be.
Because you learn as you go. It shouldn't be up, 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 and it won't be. And if you think it will be, then you're sorely mistaken.
But also if you think the end goal is to like, if we're making the analogy to the chess game, if you're like, think the end goal is to like, you know, get the king, then it's like, you're sorely mistaken. Like, because it's like, once you have the king, you're still going to be like, all right, now where do we go from here? Like, if your mind works in that competitive way, or your mind, I think your mind has to be competitive to be a creative. Like, you have to have a level of like, I constantly put pressure on myself that no one else puts on me to create. I constantly feel like everyone's always watching. I feel like, I can't put this edit out like that because I just did that. I have to do something different, because then they'll like, but no one's fucking watching. Like, no one cares.
That's the thing, because everyone's too worried about their own shit.
Yeah, exactly.
And you said before, like, like you said something similar about like, you need to like post this to like, you know, look this certain way or whatever. But like, just like you said, like, the only person that's saying that is you. Right. Or like, there's people like, oh yeah, he's, like you said, they're not going to make it, or they're not going to make it. But no one is really saying that for the most part.
But that pressure pushes me to create. Yeah. So like, I'm almost like aware of it, and I am aware of like my own thoughts in my mind when it's telling me like, oh, like you're over worrying or overthinking this. But it's continued for the last 3 years or so, like to push me to create different, to create better, to try new things, to like not make one thing like the other things, to make things unique, because I am constantly like, I have to, like, I constantly want to impress. I constantly want to like entertain. I constantly want to be like, yo, look at that. I want people to scroll and be like, wait a minute, what the fuck was that? You know, and like look back and be like, that's insane, you know, constantly. So that's like a weird, I feel like you have to be that kind of like competitive drive in order to like continue to like flourish almost a little bit.
Right.
I think what's funny too, I don't know if this happens with you guys or not, but when you guys take a photo or a video, you make a video, for me, the instant I take a photo and I edit it and I'm pumped about it, that only lasts for an hour, maybe
it's
a
very
day, maybe.
it's very short.
And then it goes away. And you're like, wow, I can do better than that.
Gotta make something else.
Always.
It never stops. And I think that is also kind of what you're talking about with the competitive with yourself. Because if you don't have that, you don't have any drive to go forward.
I know. It's like, I think it's something that you have to have a balance with too, because I think at the end of the day, you gotta, like, if you're talking about like making content, you know, creating photos or creating videos or whatever, it's like you do have to at some point be making the content, yes, for other people in some ways, but you got to be making it for yourself.
Oh yeah.
Because then that's the thing that I realize is like, and I think it's a major trap with like social media and YouTube and Instagram and all that stuff. It's like, if you're, yes, there are other people involved. There are other people that you want to be entertained and you want them to watch your work or see your work. Yeah. For sure. But if you're basing how you're going to feel on their reaction or their reception of your work, then I think that's a bad place to be, because you have to make it for your, and it's hard, but you have to make it for yourself firstly. Because like, yo, this is dope. Even if no one else thinks it's dope, like, this is dope. Yeah. Because if you feel like that about it, certainly there's going to be someone else. Yeah. But if you're basing your reaction or your feeling about it based on what these other people are thinking about it, if that's your main thing, not to like kind of do it for yourself, then I think that's just setting yourself up to feel shitty.
Well, I'm like, I've definitely been able, and I was able to do this through college, through the critiques that I was talking about, be able to like kind of take the criticism or take the hit like in person, and be like, okay, what they said was valid or what they said wasn't valid, and deciding like who's right, who's wrong, and why does it matter. I will put up a photograph that I think is, as far as my standards for work, mediocre, and it'll get more likes than I've ever gotten in my life, and I will screenshot that, throw it on my Facebook, and go, I'm just curious. Why? What about this photo did everyone seem to absolutely love? Yeah. Because I want to see what the masses of people are curious about, or what kind of clicks for them in this photograph in specific, and what really didn't click in this photograph that I thought was really, really good. You know, and I can still think it's really, really good, but if the general populace of your following is like, I'm just curious, why? So I think that my mind switches between creating for myself, but also I think that artists give a lot to the world and do a lot more on the back end with being like, you have no idea how much I care about entertaining everyone else, you know, actors, painters, just being like, I want to push beautiful visuals out for the world to see. I want to make people think. I want to make people think differently. And I want to like have people scroll across my work and go, whoa, I never thought about that before. Or that's making me emotional. Or that's triggering an emotion or something like that. So I think that like I used to go, I don't care if you like it. I don't care if you know what's going on. I like it, and that's what matters. But then I switched to the complete opposite end of the spectrum, where I was only caring about what other people thought and trying to create content that I knew would get featured on feature accounts. And then I'm kind of in this nice medium where I'm like, I just want to create beautiful work for me and for you. So it's not just for me and it's not just for you, but it's for me and you.
It's like a blend of both.
It's a blend of both, and being like, I want you to watch this, and I want you to see this photograph and see that this is like beautiful, because I think that like artists really do put themselves out there like hang themselves to dry, really. They're just like, here, I'm giving myself to the world. I'm giving all my power and all my might to be like, here, do you like? You don't like? I'll be right back. I'm going back to the workshop. Like, we'll see, like, and I definitely over time have like twisted back and forth in between that, but it's, I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a topic that I think everyone that like is in this like artistic or creative space has to like deal with at some point. And then another thing that I've heard about recently too, and I guess I knew about it to some extent, but I was listening to a podcast about this, and they're talking about like the 1,000 true fans, or like the minimum viable audience.
Yeah.
Because what a lot of people are trying to do with their art and then like their business stuff is they're trying to appeal to everybody. That is like the worst way to really like kind of like get your work seen.
Yeah, know your audience.
Yeah, and that's hard it's hard to know your audience.
Yeah.
But like that's the thing, is like just because everyone doesn't like it doesn't mean that it's not good.
Mm-hmm.
Like even people that are popular and like famous in certain areas, while that may not be the goal anyway, but like say a guy like Tim Ferriss who does the podcast.
Yeah.
I heard when I was listening to this, they're like, yeah, he has a huge audience now, but even him as being this big with like selling this many books, there's 99% of the people in the world don't know who he is.
Yeah.
But yet he still has this small, in relative to the world, audience that creates a whole like life for him, and he's just like total success at it. And anyone can have that on a smaller scale if they like kind of create the stuff that they know that the smaller audience of people really enjoy, and they're really going to get something out of it.
Right.
Even though it might not be millions and millions of people, but that's okay, because it doesn't need to be for everyone. It's only for a small group of people that really value what you do.
Well, it's like I don't even really like Jackson Pollock work. I don't, but I can see why other people like it, and that's fine, and I can see why he got well known, and that's fine. And I've studied his work, and I've seen like that there's more to it than just splatters on paintings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the point is that a large enough audience liked it that he became as famous as he did as a painter. But it's like, J. Cole is an amazing rapper. My mom fucking hates him, but she doesn't like rap. So that's fine.
Yeah.
It's like there's a thing for everybody, and you got to know your audience. And I think that it's important to be like, I'm going to create emotional portraits. And I think we talked about this yesterday, but just knowing that like, are you a landscape artist, or like what are you trying to do? Are you trying to create these like, there's this guy, I think his name is like Fisty or Frosty or something like that on
Dylan Firsty.
Yeah, Firsty.
Dylan First.
Isn't he like a landscape photographer? Yeah, and he creates these beautiful lot of mist and a lot of like kind of like Beyond the Pines kind of like vibe of just being moody, dark, forest. But he does like work for like Range Rovers and stuff like that, and does a lot of advertising work by driving like in these areas in like Washington and like Vancouver and stuff like that.
Cool.
But that's very different from like the Earth Picks, like Laguna, it's SoCal, like landscapes. That's very different, and so like even that specific, like what kind of landscape photographer you want to be, and knowing that some people don't really like that moody landscape, some people want the beautiful blue sky landscape. So are you going to take pictures of fields in Oregon or something like that? Like what kind of portrait photographer you're going to be, what kind of video maker are you going to be? You're going to be a lifestyle video maker mostly, or are you going to be a concert video maker where it's super glitchy and everything's like layovers and stuff like that?
Yeah,
or like, what kind of content are you trying to create? What's your niche? What do you want to make most of? And being like, not everyone's going to like that, and that's okay,
Yeah, I mean, it's actually, in some ways, if you are getting and finding like your niche or niche more, it's like you're actually like, some people are not gonna like, some people are gonna hate it. But that's actually a good thing, because it's like polarizing. Like some people are like, yo, this is so dope, and then some people are like, that is crazy.
But people are talking about it.
But then if everyone's just kind of in the middle, like, oh, that's like pretty cool, man, and everyone's like even, then you're kind of like probably not on the right track, because it's like there's nothing special about it. And then generally people are like, yeah, it's okay, and you don't have people that are like, oh, that's like not what I want. or people that are like, yo, this is like
Yeah.
it right here.
Yeah.
So it's crazy, you know?
I think it's important not to get caught up necessarily in what your niche might be.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know for sure,
Yeah.
then let it come.
Yeah, let it come.
Yeah,
I
you have
agree.
to develop. It has
should
to be
come
developed.
naturally.
The pressure on yourself to have a niche
Yeah.
will only create
Yeah.
worse work for yourself.
Yeah, that is
Couldn't agree
true.
more. You're right.
That's a tough one because this is a common topic. Everyone's like, create your niche, and then people are like,
Find
I
what
need
you-
a niche.
Find what you're best at.
What's
Find
my-
what you're best at. Yeah.
But you gotta develop it over time, and that comes back to the patience.
It could never come too. You always
Yeah.
have to accept that.
Yeah.
You could literally never ever know exactly what you want to do, and that is fine
Yeah.
because you just did.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah,
You just continued. You just worked.
Well, and you figured out what you don't, and that's the thing is like figuring out what you don't want to do too. And you might have to do what you don't want to do to then know that, oh yeah, I definitely don't want to do that.
sure.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah. So why don't we wrap this up?
Yeah, man.
We're getting close to the time limit here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this was an awesome conversation. Appreciate you dropping in with us, Alex.
Thank you very much for having me, guys. This
The
was
man. You want to plug in your Instagram or social media stuff?
awesome. Sure, yeah. My Instagram is alex.iby, and I have a second account you can find right there in the link in the bio on the Instagram, as well as the YouTube channel, just Alex Iby as well.
You got to check
yeah.
out. You got to check that second Instagram out too. Iby Focal.
It's wild.
It's some creepy, like dark stuff. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool shit.
Check it out. Check it
Yeah,
out.
and,
cool. All the links will be below the YouTube video for all of us. But it was a pleasure, Alex.
Yeah.
Thank you very much,
And
guys. I appreciate
Of course.
thank you everyone for listening. Hope you got something out of this conversation. And yeah, we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace. Thank you for listening to Breaking Boundaries podcast. We appreciate every listener out there, and we hope that we can continue to provide value and inspiration as you move forward in your lives. Please subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, rate and review, as that helps us out as we strive to make the podcast bigger and reach more people across more platforms. If there's anything we can do to improve the podcast, or if there's any suggestions, please don't hesitate to let us know. We're here for you. Thank you for listening, and continue to break your boundaries.